Shane, one of the school counselors here at the high school, and I'm very pleased to welcome Kevin Fudge. Kevin is Director of Advocacy for the American Students Assistance. He's been with ASA for the past 18 years, working to improve college access, college completion rates, higher education debt management, and access to career-connected learning opportunities for kids as young as middle schoolers. In his current role at ASA, he supports these goals by working with policymakers, state agencies, nonprofit organizations, and the private sector to help drive public awareness and policy change about all variables associated with college and career preparation, with the ultimate goal of strengthening all pathways that lead students to family-sustaining wages and successful outcomes after high school. Kevin holds degrees from UVA and Harvard and has also worked in the field of admissions. He serves as a volunteer on numerous boards dedicated to enhancing the development of human potential across all demographics. I was fortunate to hear Kevin speak at a Massachusetts School Counselor Conference a bit ago. And additionally, he is here representing, he's our MEFA ambassador. So I'm going to turn things over to Kevin and thank you again.
Wow, thanks. Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. I'm super low maintenance, and normally, just like, this is Kevin, his last name really is Fudge, just like the food. So I'm going to stand here so the, I guess I'll just hold it so the folks that are watching on video can see that. Yes, it is my real last name. Once a year, someone will be like, is that your stage name? I'm like, no, it's not a stage name. I'm going to go to court to get it changed. Yes, I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a kid. No, I didn't actually have Fudge until I was 21, believe it or not. And of all places, Cooperstown, New York, right? How random is that? Baseball Hall of Fame, and I have Fudge for the first time as a senior in college. Anyway, so I'm here tonight. I'm happy to chat with you about the college admissions process. We'll sprinkle in a little bit about financial aid, but mostly this is admissions. The way I like to work is not to talk at people, but with you. So if you have questions, feel free to ask me along the way. If you don't ask questions, I'll call on you. And if you really want me to call on you, you'll play with your phones and whatever the latest rage is. Oh, Candy Crush, I guess that's, don't let my boyish looks fool you. So I'm going to be 49 this year, and just figured out what TikTok was like a couple months ago, so I'm just way behind the times digitally. But I have a ton of information, a wealth of knowledge about this. And just for starters, higher education is a business, and you are about to make a major investment. So my goal in this is to help you understand, I don't want to be like the gravity of the decision, but I want to help you feel empowered to make a really sound investment, to learn the language of higher ed, of admissions, of financial aid, so you can feel competent and confident that you're going to get through this process and it's going to go very well for you. Okay? Like, think of me as like a higher ed doctor that likes to practice preventative medicine and reduce anxiety without pharmaceuticals. Okay, a very natural homeopathic way. It's all good, it's going to be okay. And I'm right there with you. I have a 16-year-old who's a sophomore and a 13-year-old, both boys. Both think that I don't know anything and I'm the worst person in the history of Earth. It's fine, it's cool, play the long game, right? But man, this it's tough. People are like, newborns are tough. Look now, newborns nap. They don't talk back. Like they come in, they stay home at a reasonable hour, they don't go home. They don't go out at like 9 o'clock on Saturday night and hey, Dad, can you pick me up in an hour? No, just stay home. Play video games, play cards, play Uno. Anyway, teenagers. So MEFA, for those of you that don't know, MEFA is the Massachusetts Education Financing Authority. The main takeaway from this is that this is a state entity, and so when you get information about this process, make sure you're getting it from a neutral third party, such as MEFA, a not-for-profit organization whose sole purpose is to help people plan, save, and pay for college, or the college itself, right? Don't just go to Google, type in scholarships, and then click on the first link you see. This being a capitalist society, there's always somebody looking to separate you from your money, and so much of this process is free. I will also say this, I don't mean to offend any paid college planners in the room. Are there any? Please say no, okay. And I mean no offense to anybody who's watching this on video. And when I say you shouldn't have to pay anything for this process, what I mean is that there are some outfits out there that claim, if you pay me, I can make sure you maximize your financial aid. Or I'll tell you all the tips and tricks so to get into your top school. This is an inexact science. Nobody has the secret formula, the secret handshake, The only way that somebody can say, I can guarantee you get into the school is if you donate $500,000 to name a building or name a professorship, right? This being a business, if you make a sizable donation, you can write your check anywhere you want to, right? Outside of that, there's not a college counselor or a sort of paid college advisor that can guarantee these outcomes. What they can do, and maybe I might hang a shingle out one day because, if I think about paying for my own kids for school, right? Nice little side hustle. What paid college counselors can do is provide sort of a framework to help you navigate the process. I mean, in that, so let's say your son or daughter procrastinates and you want an outside third party, not yourselves, to just come in and say, hey, little Johnny, little Jane, have you thought about where you might want to go, size, location, draw some correlations between what you think you might want to study, where you might want to go to school, possible internships, etc. And can take the heat out of the conversations if you're experiencing difficulties. I mean, we've all been there. I could say one thing to my kid, and they're like, what? You don't know what you're talking about. And then somebody else could come along and say the exact same thing. Like, pearls of wisdom? Where have you been all my life? So you may decide to do that, right? And we've had paid advocates work with us, and so if you want to do that, by all means, but don't do it under the impression that you're going to get something for your money, like in terms of a really favorable financial aid package or guaranteed admissions to the school of your son or daughter's choice. So tonight we're going to talk about the current trends in admissions, how to create a list, campus visits, what those entail, the application process, talk a little bit about financial aid, and then free resources. And you don't have to take pictures of the slides because the school council will make those available to you afterwards, okay? So, what are the trends we see the most? So I would say, back in the day, when I went to college, in the time of horses and buggies and piercing events, you really want to blow a kid's mind, you tell them you went to college before the internet was invented. They're like, dude, how'd you get your papers? I'm like, yeah, I went to college before Google, so I went to the library. There's this thing called microfiche. I read articles from the Washington Post and work with a bird scene, do research in the car catalog, right? That's how you write a paper. No way! You didn't go to Wikipedia? Wikipedia did not exist back in the day. But the main difference is a lot of kids are applying to many, many, many schools. If you and I went to college around the same time, it was like 6, maybe 8 schools max. So you applied to 2, like long shots. 2, you're like, well, probably I can get into. And then 2, rock solid, no matter what. Maybe they're like open enrollment, right? They're like 90% acceptance rate, or lower admissions. You can get it. And that was it, right? Maybe 8. I don't know of a kid who applied to more than 8 colleges. Now, oh my gosh. 15, 16, sometimes 18 kids apply to 20, stop the madness. Stop the madness. I'm assuming that as a school counselor, you probably tell kids 8 to 12, 12 being the max, maybe 8 to 10. There's been conversations that if you apply to more schools, you're increasing your opportunity to get more financial aid, right? So if I apply to 20 schools, I'm going to get a wide variety of packages. I'm going to get one that offers me a full ride, and then maybe some that don't offer me anything. There's no evidence to suggest that by applying to more colleges, you are going to get a more favorable financial aid, right? There's no evidence to corroborate that. And I would argue there is evidence to suggest that the increased applications have been entirely driven by the colleges themselves because, one, it costs $50, something like $75 to apply to a school, right? And the more applications you have, the more people you can reject, the more exclusive you can appear, right? So the U.S. News and World Report rankings, the bane of my existence, again, no offense if you work for U.S. News, but let's be real. Rankings are determined by alumni giving, really. So people with alumni with resources, somehow they're ranked as a better school than a school with alumni who are like, yeah, no thanks, I'd rather put my money towards something else. Anyway, and it's so subjective. One school is better than another, really. It's what the experience is for the student and what the student gets out of it versus going to that school. And I'm telling you, so at Harvard, they don't have magical textbooks. It's not like Hogwarts where you you sit at a table and like food magically appears and owls bring you your syllabi, and it's like they open a book and like there's golden rays and you all bask in that knowledge, and by osmosis you become scholars of light. Like no, it's not. It's very nondescript. Like it's not. College is what you make of it, and I think that we've gotten so caught up here being in the capital of higher education, right? This is the area, part of the world with the most densely concentrated, number of private liberal arts colleges, and in fact, we're the only state in the union where more people go to private colleges than public colleges. What do you think the percentage is of people going to public college nationwide? What's the percentage of people going to public college? Anyone guess?
70.
Yeah, 70-ish. Good, yeah. So the majority of people go to public schools. But you wouldn't know that living in Massachusetts, and it's like, wow. You think college, you think 4 years, liberal arts, serpentine walls, professor playing guitar, singing kumbaya, right? So as we're going through this, I want you to expand your definition of what you think higher education is. Okay? At graduate school, at Harvard, I was at school with people who started at community college in California. Went for 2 years, transferred to a 4-year school, got their bachelor's, and then became a graduate and then a PhD. So everywhere else in the country, that's a great idea. Here, you get into UMass Amherst, oh, what did you do? What crime did you commit? Was it B&E? Was it assault? A class 3 misdemeanor? Like, oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh, Bridgewater State? Oh, for shame. Like, it's just awful, right? Like, so anyway, we can be the starters of a trend that sort of shifts that in a different direction, because ultimately, the system is going to collapse on itself. Like, colleges that are charging full price, like $75, $80, $85, $90,000, like it's not sustainable. Even though they give you a significant discount, which I'll talk about a little bit later, the way things are going, it's going to be power of the people that are going to make decisions that's going to drive the eventual change that is needed in higher ed, right? So don't, in other words, so that's my long-winded way of saying, don't be part of that trend where your son or daughter is applying to like 18 or 20 schools. You can only go to one. Do your homework now and start to like trim the sails. Along those lines, the longer wait lists, the last bullet point, again, that's a business decision to try to improve your yield, right? Colleges want to have a ton of applications, reject a ton of people, but also they want to make their yield so that they have their incoming class that meet their number, right? Affectionately known as butts and seats, right? That's their primary driver. And they use a wait list as a tool to sort of manage their yield. Now, if it were me, and I'm a high school senior, and I get rejected by a school or I get waitlisted, no, the heck with that. Like, either tell me yes or no. It's like I tell the kids when I actually speak with students, I'm like, if you ask somebody to the prom, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to put you on my wait list. Would you be waitlisted for the prom? No. You'd be like, tell me no so I can go ask somebody else, right? There are kids that, 1 or 2 kids get off the wait list at selected schools every year. But typically they're only going to the students who don't apply for financial aid. And it happens so late in the admissions cycle that you may have already committed in your head to go to another school, and then you find out in July, hey, you got off the wait list. Like, I find it a little bit disorienting, and I would say to you, if you see your son or daughter waitlisted at their top choice, I mean, you don't want to tell them what to do, but I would gently encourage them to be comfortable with their second option, because again, it's not so much where you go, it's what you do when you get there, right? So one of the ways to stay organized here is to use the College Application Manager at MEFA. So if you go to MEFA.org, College Application Manager, like me, I'm old school, I keep vanilla folders for everything. I'm not a digital native. I think technology should stop at a pager. Like somebody beeped me. Oh, should I call you back? Maybe. But the only reason I have a cell phone is because I'm married with kids. Like if I was single, I would not have, honestly, I would not have a cell phone or a smartphone. Maybe I'd have like a flip phone, which are actually coming back in style now, apparently. Like all these celebrities in Hollywood are like, yeah, I don't have a smartphone. I'm decoupling, like with a Paltrow, right? But these are great because it's helpful to stay organized, and there's a lot of information. And different schools there's no universal deadlines for college applications, right? So for the financial aid application, it's available October 1st. It opens at a universal time, but each college is going to have their own deadline for when to submit to receive priority consideration for packaging. Okay, so this will help you keep up to date with that. So researching colleges is really, really important. There are some awesome tools, two of which the federal government created, which is College Navigator and College Scorecard. So that you can see the 4-year graduation rate, average annual cost, and the median earnings for the degree recipients. College Board actually has a really cool thing called Bright Future and the MEFA Pathway. So these are really great tools if your parents have at all ages, I would say mostly for parents of freshmen and sophomores, as you're starting to have the conversation, junior especially, obviously. But again, it's helping you set some parameters, and it can give you sort of ballpark estimates of what you're working with regards to cost. So when you're thinking about how to make sense of almost 4,000 colleges in the country, I always say to start with 2 basic parameters: size and location. Okay? Do you want a big school, a small school, and do you want to go close to home or far away? And again, that's relative for every student, right? So when I used to be in admissions 25 years ago, I would talk to kids in Boston about going to Worcester for college. And they'd be like, Worcester? Man, that is too far. I'm trying to go to school in Boston. There's so many schools. There's 60 schools in Boston. That's like wicked far. Okay, that's great. All right, that's cool. And then I go to Manhattan, and I'd say, yeah, come up, Central Massachusetts, great area, lots of great schools. And they're like, Central Mass? And they're like, 3 hours away? Man, that's too close. I'm trying to go to school in Guam. I don't even know where Guam is, but I heard they had college there. You get federal financial aid. I'm going to go to Stanford. I'm going to go to the University of Washington in Seattle. And I was like, oh, okay, you can do that. Take a plane ride, whatever floats your boat. So distance is relative. My expertise and my experience in understanding human behavior, psychology, and just general higher education, college management. If you don't have a relative within a 2.5 hour drive, I wouldn't really get excited about my kid wanting to go to Florida or Georgia or someplace they've never even been before, just because they want to experience out of state. Yes, it's now when I went to the University of Virginia, I went as an out-of-state student from Connecticut, so it was about a 6.5 hour drive. So it wasn't that far. I mean, it was far, but it was far enough away that I could prepare for a surprise visit. So when my parents said we're coming to visit, I could open up my textbooks and grab a highlighter and look like I was studying. But it wasn't so far away. Like my mom grew up in DC, so I had a ton of extended family 2 hours away from campus, right? So even though I was far, I was still somewhat connected. And despite what your young people may tell you, that and how joyous it'll be for them to be far away and meet tons of people and have a great experience, there's always that nice comfort for the student that there's somebody familiar in relative close proximity, right? Even in this digital age where you can FaceTime people and you can feel super connected, in my opinion, it's really important to have somebody that's close. And also, if they've never been, I went to the University of Virginia sight unseen, I'd never been to Virginia until orientation day. So it turned out to be good, but if your child is thinking about going way far out of state, I would probably maybe take a look at campus a little bit and encourage them to maybe want to visit. And then that's location. And then with size, again, size is relative because even at a huge school like the University of Virginia with 19,000 undergraduates, give or take a few, it's split up into smaller colleges. So when I went, the College of Arts and Sciences was 6,500 students roughly, right? So yes, are your introductory level classes about, could be as big as 300 to 400 students? Sure. But it's going to be broken up into smaller discussion sections led by a TA. And so, and once you probably have 1 or 2 of those classes your first couple of years, and then once you declare your major, my average class size was, I would say 15 to 18, maybe, right? I rarely had a class after my first year where there was more than 150 or 200 kids. And I would say the upside of going to a bigger university is you're going to have a lot more options to choose from for clubs and activities versus a smaller school. And so I guess I would just say don't be intimidated, even if your son or daughter is introverted. Actually, believe it or not, I'm a closet introvert, doesn't seem like it, but I had my own apartment in college. People are like, dude, you talk to everybody, how can you live by yourself? I'm like, everybody has downtime, I recharge by being alone, But But you can really find your community at a big school. Small schools as well. I think I would argue that smaller schools might be better the closer they are to a populated area, because the combination of like small school in the middle of nowhere, especially in the cold winter months, can be maybe a little isolating. So just some food for thought, something to think about. So when you visit a school, I mentioned this already. So there are informal visits and formal visits. So an informal visit is you kind of like you go to a campus during the summer, you just walk around, you get the feel for it, and you're not announcing yourselves at the college or university, right? And those are great because those are like low key, low pressure. Hopefully they're not forced, like you actually get to the school because like I'm not getting out. God forbid I'm ever in that situation, because I take the Darwinian approach to parenting. Okay, like. If you don't want to wear a jacket to school, that's fine. If you want to go barefoot, whatever. You'll pay the yeah, say that as I wear sandals year round. Those of you that may have noticed. So I would be the parent to be like, okay, I drove 3 hours to be here, now you don't want to get out, fine, let's go. You know what I mean? Whereas other parents are just like, we drove here, you're getting out of the car, you're gonna like it, So maybe like again with your homework, you're not in that position where you're kind of like at loggerheads. The formal visits, though, if you do decide to go that route, that's one of the ways that you can show demonstrated interest in college, which is one of the variables in the equation that some schools use in evaluating candidates, right? How much interest did you show? In other words, how likely are you to matriculate if we offered you admission? And formal visits can include like a formal campus tour. It can be involved sitting in on an academic class, and usually these are options with smaller schools. Like smaller private liberal arts colleges will give you the option. The college I used to work at used to offer overnight visits. Now I'm not so sure they do that anymore. They have too much trouble occasionally, but they let them during the week. They didn't obviously let them stay out Friday and Saturday night. I appreciated the formal visits because it actually gave a student an idea, like, okay, I'm going to sit in on a pre-med class, or I'm going to sit in on economics class. And it gave them confidence, like, yeah, I can do this, I can be here, and I can see myself in this environment. So, but a lot of those things you have to pre-register for. So there's going to be this spring open houses for, they'll be for prospective students, so maybe the ones for juniors might be in the fall, but just be on the lookout for like their open houses, and they have programming that day. We can speak to people from admissions, then speak to financial aid counselors, and then go on formal campus tours. Those are always good, particularly at the smaller colleges. So college fairs, they are offered sometimes at the schools themselves, but then the National Association for College Admissions Counselors, or NACAC, has national fairs, and there's one in Boston, and there's tons and tons of schools. And so they have a map. So basically what this is telling you is like, if you decide to go to a national college fair, like don't just show up and be like, oh, okay, where are we gonna go? Like treat it like you would Disney, okay? So, like you're gonna go to Epcot, you're gonna do this, like you're gonna plan your itinerary, do that for the college fair because you have limited time and you wanna make the most of it, right? And let's say you wanna hit 10 different schools and speak to 10 different admissions reps, there's going to be like a convention center with a bunch of tables laid out. So plan ahead and think strategically how you want to do that. So again, I mentioned this at the beginning. When you're developing your list, think about it from these characteristics. Likely, okay, you're pretty confident. Possible, 50-50, and then reach. Please do not put all your eggs in the reach basket, okay? It doesn't make any sense. And along those lines, get comfortable with the idea that your top choice may not work out in your favor. But again, I would stress that this process is not a meritocracy. Okay, this is a numbers game. And I know that it's difficult sometimes for kids to get rejected. And true story, I still have all of my rejection letters. I have all of acceptance letters, but I have all my rejection letters. And my rejection letter from Stanford is particularly dear to me because I actually got to meet the gentleman who was a director of admissions when I got rejected, because he ended up at the College Board, and I went to the College Board forum in Manhattan and spoke in 2016. I was like, James Montoya, you rejected me from Stanford. You don't remember, but I do. And he's like laughing, and I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. But, so, I get it, rejection is real, and it's not fun. But just know that it's a numbers game, particularly with the more applications that schools are getting. And it's not an indication of your kid's ability or whether or not they're a really good person. And it's more like, what is the school looking for? How is that school constructing their class? So I think it's a good life lesson. I mean, Frank Bruni, I think that's his name, in the New York Times, writes a brilliant article. He writes this op-ed that's published every year around acceptance season, telling kids, like, look, this isn't going to define you. You're going to be fine. And I just start to plant those seeds right now, because disappointment is nothing but unrealized expectations. And I actually think it's a good life lesson in resilience. Not everything's going to go your way, right? And and you just got to deal with it. And that is what it is. And make the best of the situation. And just don't take it personally, because it's not a rejection of you as much as it is they have limited capacity to create and particularly selected schools to construct their class. It's like they're making a quilt, and they don't like your design, but it's all right because someone else will, and you're going to have a brilliant future. You can tell I'm like Tony Robbins before Tony Robbins was invented, right? It's so funny. I'm 48, I'll be 49 in October, and I see all these commercials that say your serotonin levels drop in your 40s, right before you hit 50, and then all of a sudden you're depressed and walk around what happened to my life? And it's weird, because I'm born with unusually high levels of serotonin. I'm happy, and I don't drink coffee, I don't have, I do have some sugar, but not a super sugar high every day. But I'm overwhelmingly optimistic, and I was like that since I can remember, since kindergarten. I grew up in Minnesota, there's a foot of snow. I'm well, hey, at least we can go sledding. I'm dude, be quiet. I don't like the cold, I don't like the snow. Well, we can do this, and we can bring snowballs into class. So I don't know. Your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy. So if your kids tend to be a little bit more on the morose side, it's okay. It takes some time to make the world go around. But just don't let them descend into a spiral of despair, because senior year is supposed to be fun and awesome and incredible and culminates in prom and all these great activities. So give them something to look forward to, and just keep the positivity. You may, again, as a parent, feel rejected and be mad that the school didn't take your kid, but don't let them see that. Lift them up and be encouraging. So these are the application types. So I recommend either regular decision or early action. The reason why, and again, I'm being recorded, so I'm not going to go too far down this path, but the reason why I'm not big on early decision is because it's binary. Meaning that if you are accepted, early decision, you withdraw your applications to other schools, and you are committed to attending the institution that accepted you early decision. Why is that a problem? Well, even if you could write a check for whatever the school costs, everybody in this room should apply for financial aid. I don't care if you have 5 homes or you use summer as a verb, we summer in Nantucket, or we summer at Crane Beach. You know what I mean? Some people use summer as a verb, that's great. Okay? You may roll like that, that's brilliant. You should still apply for financial aid. You can be Tom Brady's kid and still get financial aid. So everybody should do it. And when you apply regular or early action, you have an option to review financial aid awards at all different colleges before making a decision about where to matriculate on May 1st. Okay? So it is in your best interest as a family that's about to make an investment to have all of your options on the table versus taking one option and then rolling with it no matter what they offer you in B, if anything at all, and then wiping everything off the table. In my opinion, that doesn't, I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense. And then some people will say, well, if you apply early, are you more likely statistically to get admitted to a college versus applying regular? I would say the evidence is mixed on that, leaning towards the idea that you don't get a huge bump early because the majority of people who apply early are the super high achievers, type A, I have to have everything known before tomorrow, and so are likely to get admitted anyway in the regular admission pool. So, in other words, if you're not getting a student with a C average, like with a 2.5, and then they apply early, and then now all of a sudden that early, because they're designated as an early decision applicant, that's worth an extra 0.75 in their GPA, so now they actually have 3.25, and they're going to be accepted. It doesn't work like that. So if you're thinking about applying early action, that's like non-binding, like that allows you to make a final decision May 1st, or regular decision. Okay? Can't stress that enough. And if you want to talk more about early decision, we can talk about it offline, because I'm being recorded. And yeah, no, I'm just kidding. What was your question, sir?
I was just wondering if you apply early decision, get accepted, but based on the financial aid package they offer, you can't afford it, what's the role there?
What's your name, sir?
Joe.
Joe, what's up? So Joe just introduced us to the elephant in the room, which is the asterisk on the early decision contract, which is, you are acknowledging that you're going to meet whatever financial obligations the school puts upon you based off of what their estimation of your need is. And I'm just going to say that what the college is going to estimate your need is going to be very different from what you estimate your need is, right? I'll just put that out there, right? I mean, if I'm going to college, applying to college, it costs $60,000, my need is $60,000. Regardless of what I can pay, that's my need. Maybe I'll pay 5, maybe 10, but I'm not trying to pay $60,000. A bachelor's degree, full price, should not be $250,000, $240,000. Really? Blows my mind. But that's another commentary for another day. Since I'm being recorded, we can talk about that offline. Technically, the answer is you're supposed to go no matter what. But you can read between the lines and sort of, they can't obligate you and say you have to come no matter what. Their thinking is you should know whether or not you're going to be able to afford this based on your own ballpark estimate of what you think you're going to get. Which again, that's what makes this process so confusing, because everybody in this room is going to pay something different for college, and you don't know what that's going to be. So the best thing you can do, and we'll talk a little bit more about the end, the best thing you can do is in your head, know your number, okay? Know your number, what is your definition of affordability? Everybody's definition is going to be different, and everybody's acceptable level of risk is going to be different, right? So you need to know that, and you stick to that as you go through this process, and don't be swayed, because when you can be swayed, what happens is you lose sight of that number, and you're just we're going to just do what it takes to make sure Jane or Johnny can go to this college. And that's a kind of a flawed mentality, because if they're getting a bachelor's degree, it's going to take 4 years. Instead of just that 1 year that you're looking how to make this work. And if you have multiple children, I can't tell you, when I write my book, so in the celebration of turning 50, my plan is to write a book. Who knows what I can do or not, because again, kids, right? But the goal is to write a book. And in some of these chapters, I would love to tell these stories about people who blew the bank on the first kid, and then these kids, the other two behind them come along, and what? What's the idea? What's the solution? I mean, I think I kind of figured it out. People homeschool, so I'm well, we can home college, I got to trademark that actually before I actually go out and do that. And sell that as an idea, right? Home college, well, actually, maybe that wouldn't work too well. But it boggles the mind. People get stuck in this mentality, I'll do whatever it takes to make it happen for this 1 year. And that's why I say you really have to have foresight, and you have to think about it holistically, and really think about it and how we're making this investment. And just brief tangent, there are many, many ways to invest in your child's future, okay? Chapter 7 of the book will be about how I met a painter who, instead of sending his daughter, so she ended up going to the private liberal arts college, but he's I'll make a deal with you. If you don't live on campus, you see $18,000 a year, I'll buy you a car for half of that, and then I'll put some of that money away so that when you graduate, I can give you a down payment on a condo, so that you can start to build equity. Right? How awesome of an investment was that 10 years ago before real estate blew up in Greater Boston, right? So that young woman at 26 is in a much different position than a lot of her peers who are still living at home trying to scrape up some money so they can move up, right? Okay. So let's see. So the application form can vary at each college. The main takeaway from this is that the common application is kind of like the universal app that majority of colleges accept. The essay questions have stayed the same consistently. There's some variation every once in a while, but it's pretty straightforward and easy to do. And I would just stick with the Common App. Obviously, you want to check if the schools have their own separate application. But again, remember that they can cost money. So again, if you're applying to schools, try to keep it under 10 because again, $50 an application, sometimes 75 bucks for an application to add up. So the things that your application will be on, these are all the different things like the school transcript, letters of recommendation, interview if it's a small or large college. The main thing here is the transcript. That's kind of like a resume for a job. So what are the grades you received, and what is the curriculum that's offered in your school? So if you're looking at particularly selected institutions, what you want to look at is if your school offers advanced placement classes or honors classes, is your son or daughter taking them? And then how well did they do in those? Because that's going to be the first thing that a selected college will look at. For most other colleges, they'll say, okay, well, here's our range of accepted students with their GPA, and here's the range of standardized test scores. About 1,800 colleges right now are test optional. I would take advantage of that. I don't know that, I mean, you can hear mixed things from college representatives about how important SATs are, ACTs. But, I mean, if it were me, if a school's test optional, you can take the exam and take the test and have it as, you know, but don't be like me. Like, I was determined to get a perfect 1,600 on the SAT. So, true story. I actually, my English teacher got me like this list of vocabulary words most likely seen in like the analogies and the reading comprehension and stuff like that. So I took a tape recorder and I spoke into the microphone and I was like, abate, verb to lessen, ameliorate, verb to improve. And I went like all the way like up until like mitigate, negotiate, like all the way through like P's and Q's. And then at night, I would play the tape, put some headphones on when I went to bed, and then like on auto reverse, and like just play back and like watch my vocabulary grow, right? And I was like, to me or not to me? That's the question. Yeah, it didn't work, but I was determined to beat the system. So don't do what I did, like don't overthink it. Just get in, take the test, get out, and maybe if the school doesn't require it, I don't know that I would submit it because a lot of it's going to be based on the transcript anyway. That allows recommendation. And one note about activities. One of the best applications I remember reading was a young woman from New York City whose mom worked a few jobs, and so she worked for activities. She said, take care of your younger siblings, 25 hours a week. So she couldn't do like yearbook or civics or like, you know, she reading. But she was like, look, you know, here's what I do in the summer when I have some free time. I gotta read, I volunteer, I have a job. But for the school year, you know, my primary responsibility is taking care of my younger siblings. And I remember the director of admissions held up her statement, personal statement about her activities. She's like, this is the kind of kid that we want to see here. Look at like her, you know, maturity, her determination, and like, you know, that's really awesome, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, wow, okay, great. Well, this is how we're rolling, right? So a holistic approach to evaluating students and recognizing that activities means a lot of different things in different contexts. So I think it's more like, rather than like spreading yourself thin and doing a lot of things, it's more like what's the kid really excited about, and like it doesn't necessarily have to be in a leadership position in that club, or if they want to talk about volunteering. A lot of schools want to see like what you do in your community, not because they're looking for like you know ambassadors or like you know super awesome kids. It's more that like how are you going to integrate yourself in a college community, right? So like you want to be able to articulate through like whatever involvement you had in high school that you're saying, look, I'm really excited about going to this particular college, or the college that I'm applying, because I'm excited to be part of this community. I want to be part of this vibrant community that's doing these great things, and so that's kind of what you want to communicate as a student to the admissions committees. Interviews, interviews are sort of a misnomer, it's more of like a conversation. I used to do interviews at the college I worked at, and there's no, well, let me take that back. There is such thing as a bad interview, but it's very rare that a kid could shoot themselves in the foot. Meaning like, so what do you like to do? I remember there was this one kid, I was like, so what do you like to do in your free time? He's like, dude, I don't know, man, just get baked. I was like, oh, God. This is before legalization, by the way, so I was like, okay, so what do you have to do after that? He's like, dude, I don't know, man, usually I'm hungry, so eat Doritos. Okay, wow, great. And the funny part was his dad was an alum, so when he came in after the kid interviewed, he's like, so how did little Johnny do? I'm like, well, you might want to check that greenhouse back there for some hydroponics or some things that are growing that maybe shouldn't be growing there. But yeah. And also, the one way a kid can shoot themselves in the foot is not being properly attired. And because it's summer, sometimes young men feel the need to like hang their pants down super low, or sometimes young ladies dress in a way that they think a disco ball is going to come from down the ceiling. And like, you know, I'm not one to talk about who should wear what. And I have arguments with my neighbors about like dress codes and like in schools and should kids have uniforms. And you know, I'm all about how expressing yourself, right? I'm the guy who wears sandals in 0-degree weather, even with a suit. If I have a suit today on, I still have sandals. Okay, that's just how I roll. However, it's important for a young person to understand that how you carry yourself is going to leave an impression. And if you want to leave a positive impression on the person with whom you're interviewing, then your attire matters, and how you speak to them, and the subject matter on which you speak, right? So I would recommend them. I think for smaller schools, it's a great way to sort of ask questions beyond just going on the website. And usually most people in admissions are super friendly, and they like talking to kids, and they can give a kid a boost of confidence. So yeah, they're good things to do. But again, just tell the kid to kind of remember it's not,
Are there statistics on that? If you get an interview?
And are you more likely to get in? Well, so that's a good question. What's your name, sir?
Kevin.
Kevin. All right, great. Good Kevin.
Same year.
All right, excellent. Is your middle name Michael?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what's funny is when I went to Ireland as a senior in high school, since my name's Kevin Michael, they called me McFudge, nice Irish name. I was like, hey, McFudge, what's going on? So, anyway, I'm an honorary Irishman. But no, there is no evidence to suggest that an interview would give a kid a bump. As much as if it's part of, I would say that if it's part of like going on a campus tour, and then maybe having an academic visit, then yeah, it all helps because all in all, usually the applicant pool, you have the outliers on either end of the spectrum, like the kids who are going to cure cancer and go to the moon, and then the kids who probably are just applying because their parents force them to, and their grades are nowhere near the acceptance student profile. The majority of kids are going to be kind of in the middle. So what differentiates them at a small private liberal arts college is that interview and the ability for them to kind of like express themselves, and for the person presenting them to the committee to say, hey, I really like this kid. They said they knew what the most popular activity was here on campus, and they knew a lot about the school, and I think they would come if they were accepted. And that can be one of the things that pushes a kid from the waitlist pile to the accept pile. So academic readiness, again, I mentioned the rigor. Rigor to me is only like if you're applying to those reach schools and you want to improve your chances of getting those reach schools, then having a very rigorous course load is important. Otherwise, I wouldn't stress about it. If your kid's in college prep, and they're enjoying themselves and they're getting good grades, in other words, don't shame a kid for not having the most academically rigorous curriculum. Okay? Like it just, in my opinion, it does no good, right? Like, could a kid, as a parent, I'd rather see my kid do well and have confidence in a class that they felt was their speed than to push them into a class that may be a little more rigorous and they get like a C+ or a B-, but they're working harder, they're up later at night, they work great. Like it's really like what's it worth? Like it's like, so there's always trade-offs. And we can be tiger parents and push our kids to maximize their potential, but I think, in my opinion, again, it's more important for our kids to feel safe, for our kids to feel love, feel warmth, and to feel that confidence that we care about them, versus like you need to try harder, or like you need to like maximize your potential. Like what is that? They don't know. They're learning about themselves and they're growing. They're trying to figure it out. And the best we can do is like give them room to figure it out, right? We have the ability to do that. So I was like I said, I took the Darwinian approach to parenting, and I also took the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. Like obviously, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna make mistakes. Maybe be on somebody's couch one day, be like, my dad took me, because what I did with my kids, actually took them on their birthdays. I took them out of school. We went to the movies. So it was a big deal. Like we'd get them dressed and like we'd take them to school, and then we'd show up, and be like, somebody's getting dismissed. And then we'd go to like see Cars or like I don't know, Book of Life. I can maybe rattle off all the movies like But it was awesome, you know what I mean? And that's what I'll remember, not like, you know, I took my kid out of class, like you could be in the gifted and talented program, right? Like, they're not gonna remember that, you know? So what they look at though when you're is you know, obviously they measure your good grades versus challenging classes, but again, that's more for highly selective schools that are looking at if you had an AP, you got a B in an AP, well that's great, good for you. And then if there's a kid from the same school, and I think that good grades versus challenging classes is also related to pods of students coming from the same school. So for example, if you have 20 kids applying to a college for Boston Latin, like the kid who took, you know, 10 hours in 5 advanced placement classes and has certain grades will be seen differently from the kid who may have straight A's but didn't have as much of a rigorous curriculum. So I don't know how comparing like schools to schools that works, because the application will also include a transcript of the high school to show, or I'm sorry, profile of the high school to show what's offered and show, you know, what the percentage of kids go out from their schools, etc. But again, I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time like evaluating the college's process for how they accept students. Just put your best foot forward and do your homework to see where you fit in this college's accepted students profile. And again, looking at the requirements for Massachusetts public universities, it's a great way to sort of figure it all out. And absolute worst case scenario, worst case scenario, if your son or daughter does not fall within any sort of range of a school they're interested in, take a year off, work, they could go to a 2-year school, earn credit while working, and then either return, or they could complete their associates and then go and complete a bachelor's if they want to do that. So, in other words, there are always options. There's always options. And I always tell kids, make choices that give you more choices. This is what I meant about standardized tests. As you see, fairtest.org offers a list of over 1,800 schools that are test optional. The different tests, obviously, PSAT, SAT, ACT, AP exam. If a student, my takeaway from this is, if a student is in an AP class, I would encourage that student to take the AP exam and submit their scores if they're 3 or better. Okay. So the activity list, like I said, highlight the impact on your community. You can include family responsibilities and employment. Okay, it doesn't have to be, you know, civics or yearbook or Star Trek club. And showcase what you do to the depth of it, and you don't have to be the president of the club. Essays. Question? Yeah, sure. What's your name?
Steve.
Steve, what's up? With a PH or a V?
The V.
V, excellent.
I'm wondering about the framing of activity list versus resume. Are colleges expecting a resume layout, or is it just kids a lot of times just list things out? What's the sort of format?
That's a good question. So the question is for activities, do you put it on a resume or do you just fill in the blanks? And if you can fit it within the Common App and you can fit your activities, then just do it that way. I will say this, as somebody who used to read 1,500 applications every year, less is more. Okay? The director used to say, not me, she said, the thicker the file, the thicker the applicant. I was like, I don't know if I would categorize it that way, but any amount of paper reduction you can have is great. So just list the things, and if you go to a smaller school for an interview, then you can expound on one of those activities in that time. Great question, Steve. Thank you. So far, Joe, Kevin, and Steve. I don't know everybody's name at the end of the night, so it's your turn. It's going to happen. So your essays. This is funny. So the reason why I laugh is because I remember a lot of the essays I used to read back in the day, and there's some really great ones and there's some duds. The main point about your essay, though, is, again, remember the point I made about having a paid college consultant at the beginning? People in admissions can tell if a 17 or 18-year-old wrote it or if it was polished by a college professional or a college counselor, right? The student's own voice is very, very, very important. Okay, like it's not, you're not helping the student by having it polished and having it sound super awesome. Like, no, authenticity is key. Now, when I say authenticity, what most colleges do not want to see is an exaggerated use of simile and metaphor. So, for example, you know, if a kid, one time, this kid wrote an essay like, yeah, so I'm really into skateboarding, so I went down to the skate park, and inspired by Tony Hawk, like I did a 360, but then I fell, and it was like a tomato getting hit by a sledgehammer, red everywhere. And I was like, dude, you fell, you cut, you bled. Keep it simple, okay? You don't need to go into like this dramatic, like, you know, like sobs, like just keep it simple. Keep it simple, and you know, it doesn't have to be overly poetic. Sometimes kids will write lyrics to a song. That's great, okay? You know, if you don't have the melody, go along with it. It's not really helpful, but creativity is cool. But I think the main takeaway from your essay is one, a student should have it finished by the summer of their junior year. So during that summer, work on the essay. So when you come to school as a senior in the fall, it should be done. D-O-N-E, done. Okay? And second of all, authenticity is just the name of the game. I realize that it can be challenging for a kid to be vulnerable and maybe talk about things that they don't talk about with their friends. Maybe they even talk with their parents, right? But part of this exercise is expanding beyond your comfort zone. And with great risk, there can also be great reward. And that's what I would tell my student, is that it's okay to be vulnerable. And when you talk about something that's important to you, it'll come through on the page. And that's what you want the admissions folks to see. Don't talk about if it's an event, if it's an influential person in your life, if it's something related to talk about your identity. Don't talk about the things so much, like, you know, you really struggled through COVID. Like, don't harp on the event and be like, woe was me, it was really tough, like, wow, look at this obstacle. Talk about, you know, how you overcame it, what lessons learned, you know, what you're looking forward to. Again, you know, don't spend so much time projecting and talking about the it or the person. Talk about yourself, right? What do you learn? What are you curious about? What do you don't know? Like, it's okay not to know. A lot of times kids write an essay like, geez, like, I went to volunteer at Soup Kitchen and I learned about, like, economic injustice and all these awesome things. And that, okay, that's great. But, like, there's things that you don't know, so it's okay to talk about that too. Like, what are you curious about? What do you hope to learn more about, right? You know, nothing's worse than reading an essay where the kid comes off like, well, why are you going to college? You know anything? You know what I mean? Like, that's what my son does. Like, he's 16 and he's driving now. He's like, Dad, no. I'm like, Lincoln. His son's Lincoln. So my son's Lincoln, my other son's Griffin. Dad's like, Lincoln, you don't know. So you can either have me tell you, or you can go to driving school and they can tell you. But there's things you need to know. Dad, no, Dad, I know. I know. Okay. Like, it's okay not to know things like that. I don't know everything. Yeah, I know, but I do. So, anyway, that was established, right? So, yeah. And then, I guess, leave time for proofreading, because the worst thing in the world is when you write that essay, and you're like, and that's why I would love to go to Boston College, and you're applying to, like, Holy Cross or another school, right? Like, spell check is not proofreading. So many kids spell check, but they don't proofread, okay? Proofread. Read it over. Make sure you have the right college, and you're like, I really want to come here, because, you know, it doesn't make or break, it's just more amusing than anything. But, in really good essays, I will say, when I used to read applications at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, when I'm like tired, and I'll come across an awesome essay, I'm like, yes, this is why I stayed up so late to read all these applications, because this kid, this is awesome, right? Okay. All right, so these are the essay prompts that will be the same for next year as well. So if you notice the theme, and then you probably can't read these, but the theme is just, what do you want to do to make you learn more? The second to last bullet point. How has gratitude affected or motivated you if somebody did something to make you happy? The lessons we learn from obstacles can be fundamental to their success. What did you learn? Some students have a background, identity, or interest or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application will be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. Right? Who are you? What motivates you? Why do you get up in the morning? What floats your boat? You know, what really gets you excited? Maybe you don't get excited. What gets you not excited? You know, like, do people think you talk like the teacher from Charlie Brown? Like, are you a dull monotone? That's cool too, right? Like everybody has a story. What's yours, right? And just own it. Be proud to talk about who you are. And if you don't know that, okay, well, you call yourself searching. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. That's okay. You know, like, if you're trying to figure it out, where are you at the intersection of, right? Like, are you at the intersection of, like, I thought I was goth, but now I'm a hippie? Like, what? Like, just share. It's all good. It's all good. Like there's no judgment, and there's no right answer. You know, there's no magic formula. Like, you know, for years, I don't know if you folks remember this, if you were applying to college, but for years, the essay du jour, or the greatest example of a personal statement was like the kid who wrote, everything I didn't do. Like, I have not, like, scaled the, you know, Machu Picchu. I didn't do this. And I forget, what, did he say I've done everything? Oh, yeah. It was an exaggerated, like, I did this, I saved the whales, like, you know, I went to the Great Barrier Reef, and I won Wimbledon, but I've not yet gone to college. And it was this, like, example of, like, creativity and fun and smoke, but, like, that was the idea that, you know, of somebody just going for it, you know? Like, and that's what I would encourage you. Like, don't play it safe, swing for the fences, and when I used to be in admissions, I would always tell somebody, if you gave this to a friend without your name on it, would they know it was you? Right? And that's kind of what you're going for. So your letters of recommendation, this big takeaway from this is make sure you identify the person besides the school counselor who's going to do it, so that you're not asking them like a week before the application is due. Make your request in a timely fashion to give the teacher enough lead time in order to do it. And if you play a sport and the teacher is also a coach, then you can kind of get a double win, right? The teacher can talk about your commitment to your athletics and your athletic discipline and your growth in that arena, and then also talk about your growth academically and your ability as a teammate, etc. So interviews, like I said, you know, just again, relax, be yourself. It's pretty straightforward. Some colleges offer what's called alumni interviews. So if you live in an area and you're not able to get to campus, you can meet with an alum within a 30, 40 mile radius. Like simple, like at Starbucks, or sometimes actually in the past they came to your home. They did house calls. I don't know if colleges are still doing that in COVID or whatnot, but it's like I said, it's a great, easy way to get to know more about the school, ask questions, and to demonstrate your interest in that college or university. So the admissions decision, again, I said, if it were me, I would not want to be enlisted, and fortunately I didn't. I got accepted the 3, rejected the 3. I'm not going to tell you besides Stanford where I got rejected. Maybe if you ask me offline, I'll tell you, but you know, I tend to, actually, I don't know if I have all the rejection letters, maybe just Stanford, but admitted, obviously you're accepted, deferred, that's if you apply early action or early decision. They cannot give you an answer, and then they'll say, we'll give you an answer along with our general clues. So that's not the worst thing in the world. Deferred is different from waitlisted because they haven't made a final decision. Rejected, there's no going back. If you're going to make a donation, make your donation early. Don't wait until it gets rejected and be like, hey, I can sweeten the pot. Like, no. Just make your donation early, state your claim, be like, I expect to be admitted, put us on the list, put me in touch with the provost or president, you know, don't wait until they're rejected. And then waitlisting, like I said, schools have bigger waitlists. Students do get off. Usually those students who do not request financial aid. So college affordability. What is the difference? What's the cost of attendance and what's the net price? So it's the sticker price and net price. The sticker price is what's advertised and what you'll see. It's like the MSRP on a car if you go to a dealership. And then the net price is what you're going to pay. And you don't know that until you haggle and say, oh, let me get my manager and stuff now. You have to treat it like you would if you went to a car dealership. You'd be like, look, this is what I'm going to pay. Can you do it or not? Don't go through the rigmarole. It's somewhat similar in that there's a little back and forth, but you can go online to see, every school's going to have a net price calculator. You can get a ballpark estimate of what your discount would be. Think about it like that. What is going to be my discount off of the sticker price? Because more likely than not, you will get a discount. The question is, how significant a discount will that be? And how does that factor into the number that you have in your head about what we can pay and what's our definition of affordability? The most important aspect of this, though, is to make sure that you apply to financial aid within the deadlines of the schools. Usually they're going to be February 1st, February 15th, March 1st, March 15th. I saw one yesterday. I want to say, I think it was UMass Dartmouth, that's as late as April 1st, but typically they're going to be in February and March. And they call them their priority deadlines because they will accept financial aid applications all the way probably up until May, but in order to be considered and get the best package possible before the financial aid funds are exhausted, you need to have them done before the deadlines. You can start looking for private scholarships. Oh, question, yes, what's your name, sir?
Charles.
Charles, what's up?
I have a senior in process right now. We started getting acceptances and financial aid packages.
Nice.
To say that they're not transparent is an understatement.
Yes, sorry,
And
Charles.
although magically, it appears that once the dust settles, everybody seems to land around 20 grand a year.
Right.
First question, is there any point to going back and asking them to sharpen their pencils? This is after need-based and merit-based
Yep.
applications. Any point in going back and renegotiating? And what is the elephant in the room that I'm missing that 20 grand is such a holy number for them?
Excellent questions, Charles. And I think I can answer these being videotaped. So the first question is, can you go back and have a conversation with the school after they give you a financial aid waiver? 100% absolutely yes. Now the colleges will tell you, we don't negotiate. The colleges are businesses. And some respond to requests, others don't. Typically what a college will say is, the only way that we're going to reevaluate your decision is if we have new information that was not available to us at the time we constructed your financial aid report. But that's what they said. If you went to them and you said, gee, school, like this school gave me, my net price for this school was 40, the net price for this was 30, yours is a lot higher than that, or lower, however you want to phrase it. Can you help me understand what kind of methodology you used to get to that number? And do you have any additional resources? Because this is above what we've budgeted in our household to pay for 1 year of college. And then they can either come back, colleges have what's called feel-good money, so they can say, let's just make this guy feel good, give him 5 grand, or we'll give him 7, or we'll give him 10, or we'll give him 3. And, you have to then take that and say, okay, because it's not going to be a back and forth, it's going to be a one-time request and a one-time response. So they can come back and tell you to kick rocks, or they can come back and give you some money. So you won't know unless you ask. And I have a template of an appeal letter that I can write based on people's situations. If you want to talk to me offline, I can show you kind of the key phrases and how you want to construct that. The second question you asked was, is also very interesting. It speaks to higher ed being a business. So data science has become popular, and not just because of Moneyball, Oakland A's, and Nine Scott Hatterbergs, but analytics is the rage right now, right? So colleges have analytics departments where they have data crunchers, scientists that are determining what is the number that we can get you to come. In other words, what's the least amount that we can give you in aid in order to entice you to come. So as you can see, like most of the colleges, their analytics teams have come to the conclusion that 20K is kind of like your tipping point. Like you'll probably come, most likely, but you're definitely not going to reject them outright, right? Like if they came back with you with like 25, 27, or 30, you would have told them to go pound sand and kick rocks, right? So they're trying to like reel you in, but that's why you have to be like, okay, is that reasonable for you or is it not? And then you have to be willing to say, look, I'm going to walk because I don't know that that's sufficient and that's going to work for us, right? But that's what's going on in their worlds, and they're banking on you being like, well, you know what? All right, let's just bite the bullet and do it. And you're not thinking like long term versus you're just thinking in the immediate now. How do I make this happen now? Right? Question? Yes. So hold on. So Joe, Stephen, Kevin, Charles, and
Yeah.
Yana. Pleasure.
Do certain groups of colleges share admissions and aid information amongst themselves, for example, adjustment schools?
Interesting question, Yana. This is like advanced placement admissions in financial aid. You've been through this rodeo, and your answer is, I think I can say this on camera. Your answer is yes. From my observation 20 years ago, I can't say for now, but when I was back in admissions, yes, they met with each other, they shared information. Again, being businesses, it's kind of funny because it's like they're competitors, but then they're also like working together so that they're not, they're trying to say, oh, what did you do that family? Or what you accepted that student with that? Or oh, we didn't, you did. Like,
How is that not an antitrust?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Okay, Charles, I'm just a
I'm
messenger.
trying to get you in trouble on
I
camera.
know, Charles, you're killing me here. So, yeah. So I'm not a lawyer, but I play a lot of TV. What they're doing is not illegal as much as it is, because what they're doing. So I would say it's not like losing. So those of you who like football might be familiar with like the case of Lamar Jackson, right? Got to be a free agent, and there's teams that have already come out and said, you know, we're not going to negotiate with him, whatever. We're not going to offer him a reward. Because NFL owners are very upset that Deshaun Watson got a $250 million contract guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and like, you know, now that is the expectation for the highest earners in that league, right? So that's collusion. Unprovable, but it's collusion. I think what colleges are doing is they want to know, are they operating close to what their peers are doing in a highly competitive environment, right? So they're not saying, you know, if you see a family like that, don't give them more money because you're going to blow it up for the rest of us. Because each school has, you know, one school might have an $11 million financial budget, another school may have a $1 million budget. So they can't do the same things. So the Ivy League can say, if you make, you know, $170,000 or less, I forget what the number is now, we're not going to put any loans in your financial aid package. And they do that as a competitive advantage against other peer institutions. And other peer institutions don't have the endowments to be able to say, we can't give you aid without loans, because they have to. They're relying on federal student aid in the form of loans in order to give people a sufficient enough discount in order for them to attend, right? Same thing with tuition. I mean, pretty soon, what school is going to be at, we're already at 80 almost, right? Think sticker price. Well, who's going to be the first to crack the 90 barrier? Who's going to be the first to crack $100,000 for 1 year college? It's coming. Like, how's that going to happen? So they're all probably saying, well, I don't want to be the first. You're going to be first. Like, so those are the kind of conversations, and it's not so much let's purposely, like, you know, give these people this much money. Like, I think, and if we're being honest, again, being on camera, okay, this isn't going to hurt me, but there's a lot of colleges that are in trouble. And I've talked to many folks on the financial side, and a lot of colleges are kind of held together by sticking level down with their budgets. And in my opinion, there needs to be sort of a reimagining of the landscape. And unfortunately, colleges aren't subjected to normal market conditions in other businesses. So, like, for example, pizza. Like, if there's a Domino's down the street, and, you know, the pizza's bad, people stop going there, they'll go out of business, right? If a college is not performing well, or, you know, overburdening their students with debt, like, we're not going to really know about that, and it's not something that's publicized, so you don't know about a school and its quality until it actually closes, right? And then those for-profit schools that close or get repurposed, then it's like, well, what happened? Why didn't you see it coming? The writing was on the wall. It's just ignored because, again, it's not something we think about on a daily basis. So hopefully the reckoning will come, and again, I don't want to see people at colleges lose their jobs. Like, colleges in some areas can be the primary driver of a regional or local economy. So there's really big things at stake. That being said, the way that the system is set up, it's just not sustainable. And colleges by themselves, as businesses, are not going to change unless consumers, people vote with their feet and make different choices and almost force their hand. And so one of the things that I'm enjoying seeing from the workforce development space is the amount of businesses that are saying, you know what, do we really need a bachelor's degree for these entry-level positions? Because we're going to train them how to do the job anyway. So does the job itself require a degree? Or is the degree a sorting mechanism for our HR department to cull through applicants? And even prior to the summer of 2020, where we've had national conversations on economic and racial justice, there was this idea that we're excluding tons of capable people because they don't have a degree. And how much sense is that? Right? Like, to the colleges, that's great. We want more people to have degrees, but, like, are they really more capable of doing work? So these things, we're at the beginning, I hope, of a shift in how we're looking at the relationship between developing skills, earning credentials as a degree, and the economics behind all that and how we can help our young people be successful, because that is what motivates me. That's what drives me. Like, that's why I wear the Superman watch. Like, I am driven and motivated to help young people be all they can be, realize their potential. And when I say successful outcomes, however the student defines success. And, you know, it breaks my heart when I see kids who feel like somehow they've not succeeded or failed because they didn't get a four-year degree, or they're not going to a four-year school directly out of college, or they didn't get into some school that, like, you know, their parent can slap a bumper sticker on and be like, I did a good job. Where your son or daughter goes to college is not a reflection of the job you did as a parent. It is not. It is not your capstone project. It is not the bow on a career of parenting that you say, wow, I did an awesome job because my kid got into brand name university. Right? Don't let them sell you that propaganda and this idea that, like, well, if you go to that school, then, you know, your whole future is gilded and your path is set. Right? Like, is it true that at Ivy League schools there's, like, all this social capital floating around? And, you know, absolutely. But, like, I would argue, and the evidence would suggest, that it is class replication, that the people who already are going there had those networks before they went to Harvard and Yale. And by, you know, some kid from Oklahoma who comes from the lowest economic tier isn't all of a sudden going to go to an Ivy League school and end up in the upper tiers. Statistically speaking, you have a better chance of being well-to-do and not even finishing high school and still remaining well-to-do in an upper income tier than by starting in one of the lower two tiers of the income ladder and then going to an Ivy League school and rising up. It doesn't happen. And so we have to disabuse ourselves of this, like, Horatio Alger, like, push up by your bootstraps, work hard, you can be anything, like, go to this school. No, right? Like, 70% of people go to public schools. Like, when you travel the country, next time you're at a conference, ask people where they went to school. You'll be surprised. Colleges you never even heard of. And they're capable professionals, great people, nice people, and they didn't have to go to a brand new school for that to happen. But we are kind of like, I often say this, we're prisoners of our moment, we're prisoners of our era. Because, you know, what happens here drives a lot of the national conversation about higher ed. But that's not, I mean, I did a report in grad school about Oklahoma and then Ranger. They're just trying to get kids to graduate high school and apply to a community college and maybe go to the state universities. Like, it's an honor if you get accepted to a state university in other parts of the country. It's not like you're the redheaded stepchild and, like, you know, what did you do wrong, right? So, like, let's be part of that change to, like, you know, help the eventual what's going to happen come and be gradual instead of like a tipping point. And once in the presentation, several years ago, about the tipping point, how it's all going to fall off a cliff. Like, we can all work together collectively so that it doesn't actually fall off a cliff. And we don't, like, the train doesn't go off the tracks. Like, there's a place for colleges at the table. They have to realize their model has to change. So, anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. But thank you, Charles, for that question. And, and so now the only person I don't know is you. What's your name? Chris, with a K or a C?
K.
Excellent. All right. So Chris, Stephen, Kevin, Yana, Joe, and Charles. Great. All right. So, so I mentioned these two financial applications that were a little over time. I apologize for that. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, you use that for every school. And then the CSS profile is for certain private schools. About 250 colleges and universities require the profile. The main difference is the FAFSA is just looking at income, household size, number of people in college. The profile gets into home equity. How much did you buy your home? What year did you buy your home? What was the purchase price? What is the mortgage? What's left on your mortgage? What is it, and the kicker, what is the current market value of your home? Why do private colleges ask that? Because they want you to use your home as an ATM. Do I recommend that? No, but they do. So just know. Mass transfer, this is what I talk about when starting a 2-year school and transferring to a 4-year school. You can get more information at massedu.masstransfer. And then the tuition break is the New England school tuition break for majors that are not offered in Massachusetts but in other schools. Chris, question?
But on the previous slide, there was something about college, the scholarship. Is it the one before that? Looking for private.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you just say what that meant?
Absolutely, thanks, Chris. So private scholarships are outside money that can help defray the cost of college. So as a senior, you can apply for scholarships through, you guys use Naviance or MEFA Pathway, Naviance? So all scholarships for students at this high school will be available for the guidance for that portal. And again, don't poo-poo. $500, that's books for a semester. So most private scholarships are going to be like $500, $1,000, maybe $1,500, $2,000. But every amount that you have, that's free money that you're not going to borrow.
About all of those through the school?
You can. You don't have to find only the school ones. You find out through the school, but there's other websites like MEFA has a good website, and then FastWeb is probably the most recognizable one nationwide. But again, don't hit scholarships in Google. Make sure it's like a reputable site.
And if you get, sorry,
Sure,
a
go on.
financial aid package, is a scholarship, if there's a scholarship, is that, like, once you have your financial aid package, the scholarships you have to go towards that, it's not like,
Yeah, Chris. Wow, you again. This is Yana territory because this is like advanced placement admissions and financial aid. You touched on the other elephant in the room, which is scholarship displacement, and that's kind of a longer conversation. We can talk offline about that. But yes, colleges sometimes can replace the money that you bring in with their institutional aid, so it's a dollar for dollar switch. So you're not really seeing the impact of the award that you could. But we can talk about that offline. I'll give you the email address. More information on how it works. This net price calculator, as I mentioned before, it's on every college's website. Applying for financial aid, so these are the two ones I mentioned. And then the mass transfer and tuition break. And then what you can do, basically staying on track, just make sure again that you're following the timelines, that junior, you're writing your essay this summer. You can retake the SAT if you want. I would only take it once, particularly with so many schools being test optional nowadays. And then just make sure you know deadlines. Like you know the college, the application deadline, the financial aid deadline. And you can use the MEFA College Application Manager for that because it helps you organize and see, compare all the schools. And your school counselors are great, so you use them to help you. They'll send out emails. You can sign up for emails to MEFA to help keep you online. MEFA Pathway again, you can create a digital profile. It's a great MEFA. I mean, I've been an ambassador for MEFA. I can't remember how long. Again, it's what happens when you get older. Kind of like all the years all blur together. It's hard to believe. Like I'm married 21 years this fall. I'm like, what happened? We met in college. We're still here. It's awesome. I gotta say. I tell young people, don't worry about the first sign of trouble, right? Because it's like it is, the hills and valleys, it speaks. And another person told me too, as long as you don't want to both quit on the same day, you're good. Like one day somebody might want to be like, see ya. The other day somebody might, as long as you guys both don't say see ya on the same day and somebody's still holding the rope. Like I was always that guy. I'm like, I'm not letting go of the rope. It's good, so. But I don't know how I got talking about marriage. Maybe because just thinking about pathways and me and my wife in college, which is a lot of fun. But you can look at it, and there's not necessarily a direct correlation between what the student studies in college and what their career will be, but you can see from a career exploration how it all fits together. I think that's a really important aspect of this as well. Especially because if somebody tells me I want to be a teacher, I tell them immediately go to Westminster, right? Like it doesn't make sense in my opinion to spend a ton of money on an undergraduate degree for something that you can get from a state school, particularly if you're thinking about getting a master's. Again, how are you going to make this investment in the wisest, cost-effective way based on what the outcome is going to be, right? You want to be a nurse, I say San Jose State. You want to do engineering, UMass Lowell. Like, we have awesome public institutions in this Commonwealth and take advantage of them. So you can sign up for MEFA events. There's like a lot of stuff happening online. If you sign up for emails, again, it can help you keep on track with the whole process. So you can go on YouTube, you can go on LinkedIn, there's podcasts. Actually, it's funny, I have a podcast, well, I don't think it's a podcast, I think it's more of like I guess it is a podcast. They post podcasts online, but it's a video cast too, so maybe it's a webcast. Anyway, I did it on my porch because I was having renovations done in the house. There's bees flying around, so I'm kind of like, my eyes are all over the place, and I sort of like that. They did a good job of editing though, but I explained the college cost process, the affordability more in detail. So if you want to look at that on MEFA, just search Kevin Fudge and you can see it. All right. If you have any more questions, there's an email, collegeplanning@mefa.org. It's a great one. And then I'll give you my email offline if anybody wants to ask me personally a question. happy to answer it. And I wish you all well. Like I said, I want you to be less anxious. I want you to feel empowered. And everybody here is going to make a great decision, and the kids are going to have really good outcomes. So thanks for your time, and good luck the rest of the way. Thank you.